Hello, and welcome. I'm so glad to have you here with Dialogue with Janae. I am Janae Dunlap Myers, and you are tuned in to my Overcomer series for the month of March. This is my second episode, and I'm very excited about my special guest that I have. If this is your first time tuning in, every Sunday in the month of March, I am going live. I have selected 4 overcomers who will be sharing parts of their story. This month is a very heavy month for me emotionally, with celebrating 2 anniversaries. One, my older brother, 6 years my senior, passed away about 2 years ago on March 1st, a day after his birthday. And my daughter, who transitioned to heaven at the age of 7 due to a pediatric brain tumor on March 6th of 2015. So this year I decided what better way to survive this month than by sharing other stories from overcomers who are also dealing with some things. Because sometimes when we go through things, we feel like we're the only ones, and that we may even feel like, the world is out against us. Like every time we turn around, here comes something else. And so it's good to be reminded that, number one, we don't walk this walk alone, because we do have people in our corners who are supporting us and who are walking with us. And more importantly, we have God. And sometimes we may feel like, well, where is God? Because of all this stuff that I'm going through. And so by listening to other people's testimonies and their stories, it lets you know that, oh, I'm not being picked on. Oh, it's not just me going through this. And yes, God does exist. He hasn't forsaken me. He's been here with me this whole time. He's been carrying me when I can't carry myself. And so by seeing God in other people's testimonies and stories, it helps you to be able to see God in your own story. Because sometimes sometimes it does become hard to see God in our stories, because you feel like, if he loves me, clearly he wouldn't be having me go through all of this. And so it's my hope that through these testimonies of the overcomers that God placed on my heart to share with you, that you will be able to see that, yes, God loves you. No, God has not forsaken you, and that God is carrying you still. And so today I have a very special guest. It's funny how it's funny how life happens. And so this is a young lady. I call her young because we're all trying to stay as young as we can for as long as we can, right? But this is a dear friend of mine. We call each other sister from another mother and father. But it's funny how she came into my life when I needed her the most, and I didn't even know it. And it's because of her that she helped to open my world up and helped to expose me to things that inevitably have helped me be a better parent, be a better mother, and be able to be a better wife, in making sure that I do well by my family as far as their health and wellness. And so allow me to introduce you to my dear sister friend, Miss Grace. Hi, Grace.
Hey there.
How are you doing?
I'm feeling really young now.
Yes, ma'am. We have to claim it.
You get some brownie points for that.
I know, right? Some real brownie points. Just remember, oh, look, you don't have to remember too much because I got it on video. Well, I'm so thankful that you decided to say yes and to join me this month. As you know, I try to not just survive things, but I try to thrive through it. And in thriving through it, I try to use my testimony and my story to be able to show others that no matter what life throws at you, it does not have to defeat you unless you choose for it to. And you know me, I choose to win all day, every day, just like you. And your story is one that, I don't know, if people don't understand the power that we have and don't understand whose we belong to, that your story in itself will help them to know and even help others to remember, for those who have forgotten. But even though I may think that you are an overcomer, do you really consider yourself to be an overcomer?
I think at this point, I call myself a reinventor. I've had to reinvent myself so many times. And, you always have the option to stay stuck or not move forward. And for me, maybe that's for a moment. Maybe that's just for a minute. But when I think about that as an option, that's not acceptable. And
Right.
so it's always finding ways to reinvent yourself, reinvent your life, and have a purposeful life.
Right, exactly. Because some people, when life happens, may look at it like that's the end, like where there's nothing else for me to do. And by you continuing to push forward and say, no, okay, this door closed, but guess what? I'm going to build, not open another door. I'm going to build another door, and then I'm going through it. So I just get chills just thinking about it. But before we get all into it, share with us a little bit about, I can't say your background because I don't want you to, I don't want your current background now. Okay, I start like this. So when I met you, you were a chiropractor, but you weren't working as a chiropractor.
Mhm.
We actually met in medical device sales. And so let's start there. How did you come about to be a chiropractor, but then working in medical device sales?
So as a chiropractor, I had a really wonderful practice. And if those of you that are listening, Atlanta, I was near the Vinings area, and it was a really beautiful practice, had wonderful patients. And, it's something that I had wanted to do for many years, even before I graduated high school. And, this is part of this is right where the overcomer comes right in, right? So you're talking about building a new door. Like, I think I've built a new house already. I think the listeners will say, yeah, it's beyond the door. She didn't build a door and a window. She has built a full house at this point. But so I was working as a chiropractor, and I also skated competitively. And as I was skating for an event, I was actually training for an event. I had someone cycle into me, and that caused a head injury, as well as I had two injuries on my skates. The other one is I had a dog run after me while I was on my skates. It was trying to attack the owner. And when it tried to bite the owner, she let go of the leash and it came after me while I was going probably 25 miles an hour down a hill. And there was nowhere to go but go into a car. So my knees hit the back of the car. I was propelled up, and my face hit the rear windshield, and it whiplashed and hit again. And that's when I found out that I had detached both retinas. My face had hit that windshield twice. So I've had, at this point, 6 surgeries to save my eyesight. But at that point, I was several months, here I was, a solo practitioner, and thinking, wow, how am I going to work like this? Even when I came back, my eyesight kept changing. It was really, really difficult to, focus on reading anything. And, when I looked down, things were distorted. I had no eyelashes at that point. It was a really tough time. And I didn't have any family in Atlanta. So it was just me. And it was really tough to go through that alone. And I remember being so scared, thinking, well, I'm going to lose my practice. I'm going to be blind. I actually had to sign papers that say, if the surgery doesn't go well, you won't sue us. Oh, no problem.
Wow.
So, so there I was before I even went back to my practice, not knowing if I would lose my eyesight completely, and just sitting there day and night, by myself, having people take care of my dogs. I couldn't even walk my dogs. And there was a lot of different things involved with the surgery. So really couldn't go outside for a time. I was supposed to lie on my side for several weeks. That surgery didn't work. I had to have another surgery. So it was pretty complicated. And I remember just like feeling fear beyond what I ever imagined fear can feel like in your body. Like I was just buzzing. My skin was crawling. I was like, this is just the worst. I'm going to be blind. I'm going to be by myself, and I'm going to end up in some kind of facility or nursing home because I didn't have any family to take care of me. And so I'd already decided this is what's going to happen. I'm going to be blind. I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose my practice. And I just remember sitting there just feeling fear beyond what I could even think back on now. Like I can't even imagine that amount of fear in my body anymore. And all of a sudden I started praying, and I got this sense of peace that was just like, they talk about that peace that goes beyond all understanding. Mm-hmm. And it became very clear. And and that's part of the challenge when we go through something. We become so tunnel vision, so focused on the problem. Right. And there's solutions all around us. And there's hope and there's grace all around us. Wow. And so in that moment of the worst fear of my life became the overwhelming calm of what I say is God's grace, truly. Mm-hmm. That I felt God's grace on my cellular level. Mm-hmm. And it was like, well, you don't have anything to lose, because what do we really have? Yes, I have clients, I have patients, but I don't own those patients. Right. I have that beautiful office space, and a space that I created to be a healing space, but I don't own that either. And when I realized, I don't really own anything in this world, right? Except for my faith, my love of God, my love for myself, my love for my family. I don't own anything. Well, then it was like, that was pretty simple. It was like, well, then what do I have to lose? Right.
Right, just me.
It just seems so simple at that point. Wow, all the stuff I'm stressing about that I have to hang on to, I don't even own it. So wow, I could just let that go. Mm-hmm. Just let go and then let God handle it and guide me, but also be proactive, right? Soul search, not just sit back and say, well, I'm just going to see what happens, right?
Right.
Just like you've had your things to overcome, and then you move forward. You find a way to move forward with what your passion is about. So, from there, I've had a lot of healing. It was really too difficult to be running a full-time business at that time. And long story short, I ended up in medical device, and then we met.
Yes. And though I hate you had to go through all of that just to meet little old me, I'm very grateful and blessed that we met, that God saw fit to bring us into one another's life. And so one thing, I don't know if I've ever told you, but if you all heard, Grace stated that she created a healing space, right? And so Grace is responsible for, how when you become a mom and, you want to do the best and give the best and all of that. And so a lot of you may know, that it's my mission to make sure that everyone is informed about things that are important to our health. And so one important thing is that I learned being a mom with my firstborn, she was a preemie, is that our products, our personal care products, are made with toxic ingredients. But before I knew that, before the doctor informed me of that, Grace was the first one to point out that I needed to be mindful of what it is I used on my child's skin. And so she gave me certain products, brands to look at and to consider using versus just the typical brands that were designed for babies and marketed to babies, which ironically tend to be the worst ones for our children's health. But that's a story for another day. And Grace introduced me to trail running and introduced me to quinoa. I didn't know what quinoa was, but my son had all these multiple food allergies, second born, and he couldn't eat wheat. And so she introduced me to quinoa as a way for him to get a grain, but it also is also high in protein. And so Grace is definitely a woman who not only sought after the knowledge of becoming a healthcare provider through chiropractic medicine, but it's in her blood, it's in her spirit. And so Grace, tell us about that journey, how you decided to become a chiropractor.
I think my mother was always a big influence. Actually, both my parents, I remember my dad was always the kind of father that would try to find healthy foods to eat. Like even our bread, he used to get us the toughest grainy bread, And as a kid, I wanted that white bread that turned purple when your jelly or jam gets on it. All my friends had this pretty purple bread. And I had this hearty stuff to penetrate whole grain, So it started pretty early with that. My father always made sure we had like fresh fruit, and actually very different than he grew up, because he grew up as a child of the Depression and had a lot of things to overcome himself. So it was interesting that, this was before the internet, before all things we had access to. He just knew in the basics about good food. And my mother, as far as cleansing with, creams or face wash, or she used to say, never put anything on your skin that you would not eat.
Right. Amen.
So I think I was very fortunate to have two parents that I don't know, and I wish they were alive today because I've lost both my parents. But, I don't know where their influences were from. I know that their, my aunts and uncles did not live the same way. They weren't, of the same mindset. So I'm truly curious where their mindset came from. But I think that was just the seed to that I realized there were other ways of being in the world and living in the world and eating. And it was just, I was exposed to some really good, healthy stuff early on. And then I started looking, when I was looking at careers, and I said, well, how can we improve our lives without pharmaceuticals, right? How can we maintain health? Now, I'm not saying by all means, I have definitely have taken medicine when I needed to. So I'm not against it, but I wanted to be a part of someone's healthcare journey, teaching them how to move, how to feel better in their body, and especially through the nervous system, which is everything for us.
Right. Right. And that's funny because we've had several conversations about how our upbringing is very similar. And you speak about how your parents influenced you to live a more healthy lifestyle. The same thing with my father. He introduced me to supplements, and it's funny, like growing up, we couldn't eat sugary cereal, and how I love the frosted flakes.
Yes, my father too. That is not breakfast.
No. And it's so funny, as we got older and I became an adult, certain things, like even my dad, he never would drink alcohol, in front of us, right? And so I thought for a very long time, I thought he didn't drink alcohol, right? Mom would have a glass of wine, when we're out or at family celebrations or something. But and as when I got in college and came home, I saw beer in the refrigerator. I'm like, what is this? Where this come from? And then he had some other stuff in there, like some non-healthy cereal. I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? So I guess as a parent, he was like, okay, I got to raise them up right once I get them out of the house, But
as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. Exactly. But no, he is a let me see, we're in March now, so they're coming up on a birthday. So soon they'll be 77, both my mom and dad, and he's still boxing to this day, competing in master class, boxing. And people who live in Atlanta, the park, the John A. White Park, he had me at 3 and 4 years of age running that hill up and down, and I'm sure he didn't make me do it, but as a daughter, you want to do what your big brother's doing and what your daddy's doing, And so I would be in the gym, boxing and everything, So, and same thing with my mom. She was very active. Kind of watch what she ate as well. But it's like, so it's funny, being introduced to you and having you introduce me to things, the saying, what you don't know, you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? And so I was thinking I was living a pretty good, healthy lifestyle. And even, after having my kids, once we went through the fight with Jayla on that journey, because we chose alternative treatments, to help her live, and not die. And even what we learned on that journey, again, I thought I was living, I was doing good with them, but it's always something that you can do better. We were eating USDA certified organic, that Grace made sure that I got USDA certified organic, because if it says organic, that's just what it says. You don't know if it's organic or not, because unfortunately here in the United States of America, people can slap whatever they want on a label, so you have to make sure it is USDA certified organic. And we, they didn't eat sweets, and all of that stuff. But it's like life happens. And like Grace was saying, you can either sit and wallow in it, or you can decide, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I become better from this? And so even through my daughter's fight with cancer, we have become better. And thus I'm doing better by my other two kids, still here, so you can't give up, when life happens. You can't say the fight is over, no matter how big it is, because look at Grace. And this is just the first experience of overcoming, where she had to reinvent herself from being a chiropractor of a practice, single physician, having patients, to now working. That's having her own business. So now she had to turn into an employee working for someone else, but still being able to help in medical device sales, right? So we can't shut the door on ourselves, because God never shuts the door on us. There's always good in anything that we go through and experience. So Grace, medical device sales, I will never forget the phone call I received about you being in a car accident where pretty much you should not have walked away, literally crawled away from. Mm-hmm. So share that with us.
So I was planning to go to a doctor's office. I had a lunch going on, and it was a high traffic area, major intersection, and someone was on the phone and speeding, and they were coming down a hill. And before I knew it, my whole front end of my car was gone, and shearing pain through my entire body. And I've been in not just holistic health, but at that point, medical for a while. And I knew, it's like when I knew I was feeling that pain in my body, I knew I was in trouble. So I herniated my disc all the way from T10, T11, all the way down. my spine and bulging disc in my neck and dislocated my collarbone, partial tear, Achilles tendon, injured my knee and, shattered the cartilage in my left knee. And when everyone looked at that car at, where it got towed, they thought I didn't make it. Right. So, again, another kind of dark time in my life, was making really good money and had a great career and was feeling really healthy. I was trail running. I was getting ready for a really intense trail marathon. So I was probably in the best shape of my life, which probably helped quite a bit. And ended up the next 4 months walking in a therapy pool just to even get physical therapy because I couldn't even walk yet. So I was walking on a treadmill for 4 months before I could even go to land therapy. In and out of physical therapy for 4 years, and did have to have spinal surgery, which I tried to put off until I started losing all use of my left leg. I had it for about 15 minutes. The nerve would just shut off and I had collapsed and fallen a couple of times. So I started walking with spring-loaded hiking poles so that when the leg went out, I wouldn't fall on my face. And, being athletic and loving the mountains and outside and the trails, my whole life revolved around that. All my friends, my community of trail runners. And then all of a sudden I'm stuck in the house once again. By myself day after day. And the only time I get to go out is if a friend maybe brings me outside or I had transportation to physical therapy. And it was, like one of the things that I said to you when Jayla was sick, right? And we were, we're praying for her. And I said, there's a time when you pray and then there's a time that you're silent and you listen and you wait. Right. And I remember saying to you, what if, you pray for her to survive, but we don't get the answer that we want? Mm-hmm. Right? Because that's what happens. Sometimes we can pray. I prayed, I don't want this back surgery. Mm-hmm. I started out as a chiropractor for God's sake. I wanted with someone messing with my spine. Right. That's the last thing. No. So I was doing everything in my power. And I was just praying every day. And I was just like, I can heal this myself. And I had to have back surgery. And it did change my life. And some of the things I can't do that I used to do. And I, for a time, I had to mourn that. I felt sad for myself. But the thing is, at some point, you come to that crossroad again. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get the answer that you are hoping for, right, you have to trust, right? Because what we think our situation is and what the potential for our outcome is, right, is two different things. Right. And potential is huge. We're always in crisis. We are so focused, mm-hmm. such a narrow point of view. And we're not seeing the whole picture, that there is a greater picture. And so the life that I have chosen has become a more purposeful life than I ever had before any of these things happened. It's been in alignment with a life of service, right? And also not just service where sometimes there has to be balance in life, right? Because I've seen people go into service and then they wear themselves out too. There has to be that balance of stepping back, taking care of you, loving you enough to heal yourself, right? And this way, when you come into service, you're coming into the service with authenticity. You're not coming into the service hoping that person you're serving, you're actually trying to save you instead of them, right? Like you have to clear yourself, love yourself, and then you can serve others openly. Right. And so I have found that time after time, when you start your sentences when you start limiting yourself after you've had or in the middle of a crisis, and you say, as soon as you start those words, I'm too, Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I'm too old to do this. I'm too old to reinvent myself. I'm too old to, I've had a medical career. Now, in my 40s, I'm going to go to China and study Qigong as a form of healing. I'm to this, or I should be this. I should be. So when you start with I'm to, or I should, you're already going down the wrong path.
Right.
So knowing and forming a new language, like catching yourself, like, is the language I'm using, is it keeping me back, or is it propelling me forward?
Right.
Because our self-talk is either going to propel us to move forward in what can be a beautiful direction, or it's going to hold us back.
Right, exactly. Our power, the saying, our words have power, but our thoughts are just as powerful as well. And so, one thing as an overcomer, we have to check our mindset,
Yeah.
because some people think like, I was one of those people. I thought after Jayla, after we went through our fight with Jayla, I was like, clearly we're done. Like, clearly God has stamped our little seal certificate and said, okay, you're done. You
Yeah.
don't have to worry about anything else, because you've been on bed rest, with your first pregnancy. Your child was born 27 weeks. Had to stay in the hospital 56 days, but you survived that. She survived that. It was like the miracle baby. I still think about you joking, talking about when she becomes a teenager. She stays out all night and we get ready to fuss. That you were going to call us talking about, but remember, she's the miracle baby. And then, with my son being born with multiple food allergies, to where if he came in contact with his allergens, he could die. Like, okay, so when we went through the battle with Jayla, I was like, okay, clearly we're done. Like, we're done. We can sit back. We're on easy road, easy lane, and that's it. But lo and behold, Jayla transitioned in March. I was in the hospital on my way in August with my son. Broke his arm in gymnastics. And I had post-traumatic stress syndrome from dealing with Jayla, the fight with Jayla. And a lot of people didn't get that. And I was like, I'm about to lose my mind. And I had to call somebody to meet me at the hospital because I don't know what to do. And we were in Fayetteville, and they wanted to we went to Piedmont Fayette, and then they wanted to send us via ambulance to Scottish Rite, Children's at Scottish Rite, which that's where we were going with Jayla. And I was about to have a panic attack. I was like, I can't do it. And so, but we find a way to get through whatever it is we need to get through. Yes. But you have to have people in your corner, people surrounding you who are going to lift you up and allow you that grace to be able to be in the moment that you are, but not allow you to stay there. Yeah. Because mindset is important. And just because you've heard part of my testimony, we've heard from Grace. She went from a chiropractor having her own clinic to now being medical device sales, to having that taken away. But she look at her. She looks beautiful. She's happy. She's helping people. And it's because she did not give up on herself. She could have easily said, I'm done. I went through to go through. Grace was living the life. Like I told you, she taught me trail running. I did the inline skating too. I didn't hook up with Grace. I was still on the baby trucks. I didn't make it to Grace. I was with my friends over here with on the baby track. But she was riding bikes, inline skating, competing in athletic events. And so to have all that taken away, and like, where do I start again? I remember when I found out she's back riding the bikes. Yeah. And I remember when I first learned of that, my heart was so full. Because again, we don't know what tomorrow is holding. All we can do is live for today and prepare for tomorrow. And don't give up. Yeah. Because again, when one door closes, God has another one. He has another one. And the thing that makes it even more beautiful, her story, Grace, your story, is that you were born a preemie.
Yes.
You were born a preemie. You came into this world fighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah. And when you think about that, because again, I look at it, with Jayla, her life was first threatened at 14 weeks, then again at 18 weeks, then again at 23 weeks, and then again at 27 weeks when she was born, and then she got, just fighting. And, ultimately, got the pediatric brain tumor. That's why when we found out she had the brain tumor, we were like, oh no, that's an easy cake. We done been through all this other stuff. Oh, we got that. We thought you were talking about something, but and to know that your parents, they actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, your birth came after the loss of another birth, right?
Yes, I had a sister who passed away. So, yeah, it's the old question, the old never-ending question: who am I? Right? Who am I on this earth? Right? Not as a mother, not all the titles, right?
Right.
And how we answer that and how we keep answering that again is either going to keep us stuck or it's going to propel us forward.
Right.
Just knowing that we, because like each incident, each crisis for anyone, all the crises I've been through have been profound, and they've all have kind of required me to soul search. And the soul searching is always, what is my truth versus what is my belief? Mm-hmm. Right? Because sometimes our belief and our truth has not caught up yet. Sometimes it's not in sync.
Right. Honey, you just said a mouthful then. Yeah.
And that's okay too. And you said, that's the thing about having compassion for yourself, giving yourself time. I expected so much of myself when I had the injury. I probably pushed myself a little too much to heal. Like we're always trying to find our balance, and you said something earlier that was really important. It's about the people you have surrounding you are super important, because I remember when I was not a chiropractor anymore, and I've had friends that I was their chiropractor. And so they were dealing with the loss. They didn't know what to do. Like, well, I don't want to find somebody else. Like, aren't you going to get better? And aren't you going to just open up again? And, this was your calling. They were telling me what my calling was. You're my chiropractor. So it was interesting. People were telling me, well, but you're a healer. But like, if I'm a healer, then that's who I am. And that's how I show up wherever I go. And so many people were attached to what I did. Mm-hmm. They thought that's who I was. And we have to be, put ourselves in check, the same thing, right? Like I've had careers where I made lots and lots of money. I don't make as much, but I'm more than comfortable. I've got food on the table. I've got a car that I'm driving. I've got a roof over my head. It's all good, and it's all blessing. And, the people surrounding you, like you were saying, they have to give you that little breathing room, right? Hey, I don't want to go to Scottish. Scottish Rite reminds me a lot of stuff, right? You're going in your panic attack there. Give you space to work through it. Love you not enough to not let you get stuck there. But I think one of the biggest things when we are trying to support people that we love and we truly want to support them, first thing we do is need to listen. Yeah. Second thing we need to do is listen.
Right. And the third thing.
Probably listen. All right. So I could probably say, but since we got 5 more fingers,
right.
Then shoulder with them. Meaning don't try to fix them, because when we try to fix somebody else, right? Or, I've had friends all loving, well-meaning, trying to fix me because, I'm crying or I'm sad. And whatever it is, you're a fighter. I have some friends that are going, through the cancer journey right now, and they're getting a little tired of people calling, you're a fighter, you'll fight this, you got this, right? Because it makes them feel a little more comfortable. We have to check our words and say, are we saying something that is helpful or something that's making us more comfortable with that person's crisis?
Right.
So first listening, right? And then also shouldering with them, let them be sad, let them cry, whatever. And at some point, how can I support you? Ask the questions. How can I support you? All right, what is best for you? Instead of being just a cheerleader, right? Sometimes we don't want that cheerleader. We want to smack that cheerleader upside the head.
Right, exactly.
Fine. Don't give me cheerleading right now. I remember telling my friends, like, stop asking me how I'm doing. Like, I know that you love me, and that's your way of like feel like you check in. That makes you comfortable. I've checked in with Grace.
Right.
And I understand that, but at the same time, I was like, every day is going to be really bad. And sometimes every day is really tough. Moment by moment could be tough, and it could go on for a while. It could be something. So, not just asking people how they're doing, like just listen, call and listen. I'm calling to check in. And how can I support you?
Right. Exactly. And be okay with the uncomfortable silence.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's nothing to say. And just because there isn't, that doesn't mean you need to go away.
Yeah.
And then I want to also encourage us as overcomers or people who are going through stuff. When people ask, how can I help? Tell them.
Yes.
Don't say, I'm good, I'm okay, everything's good, because you got these two people over here that you running crazy. When somebody offers to help, that's their way of blessing you, but in turn, they are being blessed as well. And I liken it to the giver is not the person receiving the gift is not only being blessed by the actual gift, but the giver is also being blessed as well. So we have to be okay with letting people know what it is we need. And those who know me, I have no problems with that whatsoever, because we are our brothers and sisters keepers. And I remember when I reached out to you and I was like, look, we going alternative, with Jayla. They said, with the conventional treatment they're offering, first of all, her tumor was incurable, inoperable, and aggressive. So what they were offering, if it did anything at all, it will make her worse, not better. Mm-hmm. And it may buy her some time. What time, they don't know. But it only had a 40% chance of doing that, if it did that.
And so quality, quantity, yeah.
Exactly. And we were like, wait a minute. She's fine. The only thing wrong with it, she's walking funny. She's fine. So, but you want me to subject her to this that's going to make her feel worse than what she is, give her burns, and is probably not going to even help do anything just to prolong her life. It's not going to cure her. We know that. And it's like, that's I have as a parent who's gone through that, and as a parent who knows that other parents are going through that and know that other parents will go through that, it burns me up to know that we live in these United States of America and we've been dealing with cancer for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
But the main 3 treatments are still chemo, radiation, surgery. Mm-hmm. We've come so far in alternative treatments that why isn't there a combination? But we're getting there. And that's my goal. That's my hope, is to help us get there better, sooner, or to at least help people know that what we did on our journey. It may not have saved her life because she's not here, which that's a story for another day, but it gave her a quality of life that most pediatric brain tumor patients don't have.
Yeah.
And when you have nothing else, you want to be able to know that your child is not suffering.
Yes.
During their last days. And so I remember reaching out to you, and I was like, okay, Grace, we going alternative, and we came to you for aid in helping to build her body up so that it can do what God designed our bodies to do, which is heal ourselves. And so share with us that experience.
That's part of also, looking at everything, empowerment thinking, right? You might not change the outcome, but what can I do? What small things can I do to encourage quality of life, right? And that's part of, what if you don't get what you prayed for, right? You are losing the blessing in that journey there. Right. That's what I was saying, shoulder with someone, because if you try to steal and try to fix people or fix a situation, you have now stolen their journey, and the journey is the blessing. Right. So, looking at Jayla's situation, it's like, what can we do for her? Right. For her, not just for us, but for her, where she can laugh more, play more, experience a little bit more in her body. And that's what you did. And you brought her to my office, and we did yoga together, and we went back to back, and she was, we just had a blast. And at the end, I remember us, at some point just playing with all the props, playing with the blocks. And I was like, at that point, it was about her being a little girl and her being playful, playing. That was me shouldering with Jayla, meeting her in the middle. How can I support you? And she led the way. She's like, I want to play. She started building things with the yoga blocks. Right. So yeah. And it's like, it doesn't matter what age. I think it's just listening, being there, just getting out of our own heads. Right. And again, our limited thinking, is really the best way for me to put it. Our limited thinking is a false sense of security.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are acting out of fear and thinking we have to, or if we're going to do this with Jayla, and I have to make sure she does this, and I'm going to teach her maybe yogic breathing, and then, she'll get oxygen. Like if I had this hard and fast thing, this is what we're going to do. My limited thinking would have given us maybe also, and you, a false sense of security. Instead of me listening to Jayla, shouldering with her, having play with movement, connecting. So she's connecting to someone outside her family too, right? Like we were back to back. We had our arms hooked. We moved with each other. We twisted with each other. She was having a human experience with someone who loved her.
Mm-hmm.
She got to feel and sense more. And that's what it's all about, for us to not be out of body, but to be more embodied.
Yes.
Right. And so that's what was part of her yogic journey with me, is that when we talked to her and guided her with visual imagery and just getting her to feel and sense more in her body while she is on this earth. That's what we all come here to be, just to be in body, to be in that moment. And then when that was over, listening and letting her lead the way into playtime.
Right.
Which is just as important.
Exactly. Yes. A lot of people forget that important part of energy.
Yeah.
And how much it matters, and how making sure that your body is stress-free. Because if your body is filled with stress, you have no way of healing.
Yeah.
And so by allowing yourself to be around the good energy, and by allowing yourself to be at peace, and that harmony within
Yes.
that allows God to be able to heal what needs to happen for you to be able to keep doing what it is you need to do for however long it is. And so, Grace, we can be here all night. We really can. And but I want to start to wrap up, and I would like for us to come back because we have not we have right. I don't even think we've gotten to half of what it is you have overcome.
Yeah.
But grace is a living, walking miracle, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Because if anybody has a reason to doubt whether or not there is a God, if anybody has a reason to think, what have I done to deserve all of this? If anybody has a reason to give up, simply say, enough is enough, I'm done, it's someone who has experienced all of what grace has experienced. But yet, and you notice how I didn't say it's grace, right? My words are powerful because it's not, I don't wish that on grace. And so, but grace sits here before us better in her healing space. She was taught she came to this earth as a healer, because speaking as a parent who has lost a child, who has had another child, not intentionally to replace that child, but because my son needed another playmate, and how that gift from God has healed this family in ways that we did not even imagine or fathom to think. Grace did that. You did that for your mom and dad. And if they never told you, or if you never sensed that, I'm letting you know, because I know what they went through, and I know what your birth meant to them, because I know what our flower means to us. And so you are walking in your light. You have created a new life where you are healing and touching even more people than you have, probably people that you didn't even cross your mind and think that you could even help.
Yeah.
And so I continue to wish God's grace upon you. What a perfect name. And I just want to let the people who are watching, no baby. Speaking of my gift that we have received, she's here. Yes, but we will let her speak at another time. But speaking to everyone who is going through something, the choice is yours. The choice is yours. Look at me, look at Grace. All hope is never lost. Never. I don't care what the diagnosis is. I don't care what the situation looks like. Unless you decide it's over, it's not over. And as long as you still have breath in your body, you have a reason to keep on living. And like Grace said, soul search. Take this time to not say, woe is me, but take this time to really hear your truth, feel your truth, and see where that directs you and leads you. Because you never know. You may build a fantastic house, a mansion like our Grace has built for herself. Grace, do you have any closing words for?
I just love everything you said. That's exactly it. You know, just loving ourselves, never giving up, trusting, even when things don't seem like there's any end in sight or hope in sight, there's always something better on the other side. And limited focus during crisis. Stop yourself and say, I get it. I'm you have to stop yourself in a moment and go, okay, again, what's my language? What are my words? Are my words creating this tunnel vision? Am I using the I'm to, or I should, or I shouldn't, right? Cut yourself some slack, give yourself some love, surround yourself with people that can listen and shoulder, not try to fix you. And yes, as the people going through their tough journey, when someone asks you, I want to definitely bring that out to people, because I know there's some people listening right now that are going through some hard times. When someone asks you, how can I support you? Be honest. Be honest.
And on that note, we are going to celebrate our overcoming by and that's make sure you know that just because you get through something doesn't mean it's all over. So we are constantly overcoming. You understand? And so we are going to celebrate and rock out to our Mandisa, because she says it best, that we are an overcomer. Come on, Grace. We done been through too much not to dance. Thank you all for tuning in. We wish you a good evening. And please tune in on this upcoming Sunday as I have another overcomer. And until then, please keep the dialogue going.